that will force any fields to either be in uppercase, lowercase, or title case. So you have these three that are available here, meaning that if you force uppercase, like for instance, for flight details, if you type LX123, LX will always be in uppercase. Lowercase, you know what it is. It means that everything is without any capital, and title case is the first letter of each word will get an uppercase and all the others will be lowercase. It also works with hyphen. So if you have someone called Jean-Louis, the J will be capital, the L will be capital, and the rest will be lowercase. So it's an update we released on prod this week. We are still going to update it to make it compatible with custom import, inline editing, and global replace, meaning that for the moment, it works when you register online, it works when you edit data from the back office, but if you do a custom import and your data is messy in Excel, for the moment, it will still look messy in EventWorks. Also, we can have that with calculated field. Which brings us to the next element. In order to make it a little bit better and more relevant, everything that I'm going to show with one exception, I'm going to do the calculation with you. The first example we did with the calculated field was in our session last year, and I did a typo that Lynn from the IOC corrected very kindly. So if she sees something wrong, she can intervene and correct me as well this year. So here I have two fields, a preferred first name and a preferred last name. That's something we use a lot in accreditation, meaning that you have your passport name, which is the one you use for registration. But sometimes on badges, you put another name, which is your preferred first name and your preferred last name. So let's just create a new calculated field. So here I'm going to setting, event-side construction field, and I'm going to create a new field that I'm going to call wish name. This field is going to be a text field. And this field, the display type is going to be what we call the custom calculation. So now it is bringing our calculated field editor. The first way to do that is to take first name. Then I'm going to put an A, which means that I'm adding something else. I'm going to insert a space. I'm going to insert another one. And here I'm going to put the last name. So here, if I save this function here, that was a wish name. I'm going to add it to my form. Everything that I'm showing here is in real time, but that's the purpose of it. So here I reload that form, and basically what I did here is that I didn't take the right field because I took the first name instead of the preferred first name. So here I'm going to change preferred first name and preferred last name. So here you can see the formula that is here. I'm going to participant detail, and here if I type Johan Voringer, I save, and it is going to show me the wish name that is here. And if I prefer to be called Johnny, this automatically updates here. Okay. Now the problem with this is that if I type this and if I type here, it's still going to look a little bit messy. So now let's take this to the level 2. I want to have the last name in capital letter. That's a function that we call upper. So here I'm taking upper and I'm taking this field here. And here I updated my calculation. So it showed preferred first name and upper preferred last name. So now if I save this page, you can see that the last name is a lot better. Now what I'm going to do, the last thing that I'm going to show you with this is use title case. Which is what we call proper, and here I'm going to make it look like this. So that is my formula here. I save my page, and here it looks like this. And if my name was Jean-Paul, so you can see small g, small p. I save. It automatically corrects it. So basically that is one way to make sure that on your badges, accreditation, email, Word document, communication, or whatsoever you send to an external people, you have the data that is nicely formatted and that looks great. Okay? So that is for simple text manipulation. We have in EventWorks what we call the registration ID. That's basically an ID we attribute to every participant coming to an event. So when a record is created, an ID is generated, and the ID looks like this. What we often do is that on accreditation, we have a nice QR code, and on the QR code, we show the accreditation number. In which case, I'm not interested in having having the with2 hyphen because it's a prefix, and the data that I'm interested in is only this one. So basically what I did here is a calculated field called ID short, which means that I'm using a function called length, meaning that what I'm doing with length is that I am counting how many characters I have in the registration ID. I'm reducing it by 5, so it's the length minus 5, and the 5 is basically the first 5 characters here. So here it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Minus 5, 13 minus 5 is 8. And basically what I'm doing is only showing the right 8 characters. So the 8 characters, so here right, so the right, and the result of this is 8. So it's going to show you the 8th last character of the thing, which is basically the numerical value of the ID. So that is a small thing we can do. Another thing is working with dates. So we have an arrival date and a departure date. What I'm going to do here is go back to field and create a field called number of days. Number of days, it's going to be a number. It's going to be a custom calculation, and it is going to be the departure date minus the arrival date. Save. So let me close this tab. I'm here, I'm editing that form. I'm adding a new field, which is the number of days, and I'm putting it just here. And if I save that and go back to that page, it is showing 3 days. meaning that it is something that you would use, for instance, if you wanted to calculate per diems based for each person based on when the person arrived. And then with the calculated field, you can get a lot more complex, saying that if this is a staff member, it is going to be that amount per day. If it is an external contractor, it's going to be that amount. You can really play and do a lot of things with this. So that is an example that you can do with this. So now let's play a little bit. It's something that Gwendo demonstrated this morning with early check-in. Let's say that I'm landing in my airport at 10 a.m. Okay. What I want to do is have a calculated field that automatically tells me if it's an early check-in or no, so that if there are flight change, I'm not going to forget to tick early check-in yes. And when I send my rooming list to the hotel, I know it will always be up to date. So we are going to do that in two phases. First easy one, and one a little bit more fun to do. So I'm going to call it early check-in. It's going to be a text, and it's going to be a custom calculation. So here I'm going to call what we call an if. So here I'm going to make it look like this, and I'll say if the arrival time is before 11, it's going to be yes. Whoops. Otherwise, it's going to be no. Okay. So that is my formula here. I'm going to go to participant details. I'm going to add this field called early check-in that I'm going to put just after arrival time, saving my page, reloading. So it's a yes. If I was arriving at 12, it's a no. So this is how, by spending a couple of minutes to create this kind of field, we call them flags. By creating this, you potentially save a lot of time. Now we can make it a lot more complex. I'm going to show one example without going too far. Here in my setup, I have two different hotels. Let me just open the tab here. I have a Hilton and a Hyatt, okay? Often what happens is that the rules for early check-in and late checkout are not the same per hotel. So I can add conditions in my calculations so that the rules will be different on a per hotel basis. So let me go back to my little field with the early check-in here. I'm going to paste it like this. And I'm going to use another function that we call case. For people who know a bit FileMaker, it works in a similar way, meaning that it is a list of conditions. So here, what I'm going to put in the first line, I'm going to say if hotel name equal Hilton, okay, I'm going to copy that here, and here I'm going to put Hyatt, okay, and here I'm going to copy this formula and put it here. So what is happening here is that I have a new formula saying if I'm staying at the Hilton and if my arrival time is 11, it's a yes. And for the Hyatt, I will say that the rule is 1300. So I'm at the Hilton. It is 11. Let me just check the result here. So Hilton, it's a no. If I put 10 o'clock, it's a yes. Let me go back to 11:30. It's a no. Okay, now I'm going to change my hotel. I'm going to cancel my accommodation. And I'm going to move to the Hyatt in Double Deluxe, and I'm going to stay from this date here, and I'm going to book my accommodation. So here, normally, 11:30 move from a no to a yes. So basically, this shows you, let me show you again the formula, how you can do what we call nesting, which means that you have a function called case. So here I could have 10 different hotels if I want, and you have a condition inside it. Another example that we can use that for, I have a nationality here, Switzerland. It is something that the Equestrian Federation is using, which is basically you have countries divided in different groups based on the name of the country. So what we do here, we can do exactly the same. I'm going to go to field. I'm going to create a new field that I'm going to call country group. Oops. Country group. Save. It is going to be a text. It is going to be, again, a custom calculation, and I'm going to use, again, the case here. So the first time I would build that function, I would probably not build it in this. I would build it in a text editor and then paste it. So here we put the nationality, passport nationality equal, and here I'm going to put group 1 with a line return, and here I'm going to put group 2. So here, what is happening here is that when you work with country, you need to remember that you need to work with ISO code. That is because a lot of people are using some country names in English, some country name in French, some are using the NOC code. So we basically made it work with this, and the default result will be no group. So here I have my formula that shows if passport nationality Switzerland group 1, France group 2, otherwise no group. Let's just see how it works here. Let me close this tab. And here I'm going to add a new field called group, and it is the country group that I'm going to put here. So it's good. Let me refresh the page, and Switzerland, I'm in group 1. If I type France, I'm in group 2. And if I put something else, no group. So again, this allows you to do some pretty cool thing. Moving to the next subject, which we called validation. Let me take my registration here. I'm going to log in as attendee. I have a simple registration page here, and I have a passport expiry date. What I want to do, and it's often the case, is that I want the date, my passport, to be valid 6 months after the end of the event. And the thing is that if we don't put a rule for it, there are a lot of visa issues, problems, people cannot board their flight, and everybody is upset and it is not cool. So what we have implemented is a feature where I put expiry, passport expiry date, and we have a new tab that is being displayed called custom validation rule. So for the passport expiry date, I'm putting a rule saying passport expiry date must be after. And here we are today the 8th, so April, May, June, July, August, September, October. So I want it to be valid after the 8th of October. So again, here it's something that we will update in the future, but for now you need to put the date in an IT format. So the 8th of October 2020 is 2020. October is 10 and it's 8. And here you have a custom saying must be valid at least 6 months after the end of the event. So if I save this, I go to my sports demo, I reload the page, and I put an expiry date. Let's say I put 10/04/2020. I have an error message saying your passport must be valid at least 6 months after the end of the event. So it is something that you can use for a lot of different elements. You can use it for dates. You can use it. For expiry date, for date of birth. You can use it for text field. You can use it to have additional checks saying that the arrival date must be before or after, before or on the same day than the departure date. You can just build whatever you want in terms of logic. You define your error message here, and this error message is part of our multilingual module. So if you want to have this in English, German, French, and Spanish or Italian, that is not a problem at all. What we have done for now with this release is that these validation rules are available for front office only, because that's our general attitude, saying that on the back office side of things, you know what you are doing, and we don't restrict you in your work, because you might decide that that there are different exceptions, but what we are going to implement nonetheless is an option to define if these rules are enforced front office or front office and back office. Next one is what we are going to do is what we call the double trigger. So here, let's take an email template. Setting communication template. I have created an accommodation confirmation. So basically, it's an email that is here and that has a document called an accommodation confirmation. It's a PDF document made with our document module. So what I'm doing here is that it's a feature that has been here for a few months, but not all of you know about it. It's called trigger field change. So what I'm going to do is click on yes and say that when this email is sent, I want the hotel confirmation field to put a value yes. I want the hotel confirmation sent to get a value yes, so that I can track in the report or in the back office or in my accommodation tab if I have sent the hotel confirmation or not. So that is step one. So sending an email triggers a field. Okay, it is something we're still going to work on a lot more by having additional functions here, like for instance a timestamp or the name of a user, meaning that you will be able to say the accommodation confirmation was sent yes. It was sent on the 8th at 15:35, and it was sent by Amlin. So that's the single trigger. Now let's go to the double one. I'm going to make it a little bit better. Let's go to my registration here. I have my accommodation. I'm going to cancel my accommodation. Accommodation cancel, we're all good. Now we're going to play with what we call triggers. Triggers is a brand new feature of EventWorks that is just here. And what I'm going to do is create a trigger. Trigger is a little bit like calculated field, meaning that we started with the structure, with the basics, and little by little we are adding new functions and new triggers. The first triggers that we have activated here is the possibility to send an email based on a field. So I'm going to create a new trigger here, and I'm going to call it send Acomo confirmation. What I'm going to take is room allocated, is use my field room allocated, and if the value of this field is yes, I'm going to send the email why is it not here? Just 1 second. Maybe I have messed up with something. Oh no, I know why. Let me first save this, and I can choose if the trigger works from the front office, from the front and back office, or from the back office only. Meaning that I can decide that I don't want someone to do something on the registration page and that it automatically sends an email, because I want to keep controls of it. Or you can say, I don't mind if they do that. And so you can choose here, I'm going to put back office only. Here, I'm just going to change change a little something, because it is a security we have implemented for now. For now, I'm just going to deactivate this trigger. It's going to come back a little bit later. Let me go here, and here I can. I need to refresh this. Just 1 second. Accommodation confirmation trigger on field change. There is none. I'm saving here. I'm opening my triggers again. Triggers, trigger list. It's easier if I redo it. I'm going to create a new trigger, Acomo confirmation. I'm going to use the field room allocated equal yes, and it is going to send. Okay, I need to check why I can't select this email, but basically what is happening here is that I choose back office, and here if I go to participant, I go to my registration, I go to hotels, I book a hotel room here, double standard, I book from the 9th until the 12th, I save. And what EventWorks is going to do is that in something like a couple of minutes, it will generate a new email that I should receive. Let's just wait for a couple of seconds. And then in the trigger, you have a log of all the things that have been sent. You can see here that the email has been sent. So if I refresh the page, in a couple of seconds, it will be in my inbox. So basically, that's what we call the triggers. The trigger that we have at the moment, the only operation we have is the possibility to send an email based on a field. What we are going to add here is the possibility to set a field based on another field, meaning that you could say, for instance, that if I approve a registration, I want EventWorks to put approved by with the timestamp and the name of the person who has approved it. And with this, you will be able to have really a lot more automations on what is possible to do. One of the things that we don't permit, and this is why we had this little issue, we're playing a little bit with the danger of what we called a loop. A loop is basically you have an action that trigger an email, this email trigger a field, and this field trigger the same email to be sent. And then it is sending an email that triggers a field, that sends an email that triggers a field, and then EventWorks crashes and the word ends. So basically loops is something that we are very careful not to trigger with this feature. And that is why we implemented a couple of restrictions on an email triggering a field and a field triggering an email. And we are playing with different adjustments on how to do it. So basically what we saw in this demo session is field formatting, how to force a field to be uppercase, lowercase, or what we called title case. We saw a couple of calculations based on text, grouping two fields together like first name, last name, playing with the format of the field, title case, uppercase. You can also replace a specific value by another one. We saw how to do subtraction like for dates. We saw how to do conditions for early check-in based on an arrival time, for instance. We saw how to group them with having an if and a case, meaning that it checks the hotel name, and based on the hotel name, it puts a different condition for the early check-in and late checkout. We saw how to attribute like country code or region code based on a field, with Switzerland being zone 1, group 1, France being group 2, and with this you can do basically whatever you want. We saw validations, which means that you have a passport expiry date. You can make sure that the passport is valid 6 months after the end of the event. That's exactly what we showed on our previous session about sport entries with date of birth, meaning that we can do so that for a sport competition, people are 16 or 18 years old to register. You can also play with it, saying that this only applies to athletes, so that if you have the head of NOC coming with his son will not get rejected because he's not 16 or 18. And we saw triggers, which is basically sending an email or doing an action based on a field. So this kind of covers what we wanted to show you today about calculation and automation. What is happening is that these features that you saw here, we are really making them evolve on a monthly basis, meaning that when we started last year with the calculated field, we just had like 2 or 3 functions. Now, if you go to field and you put early check-in, you do have a lot more feature here. So we're adding them little by little to make it more powerful and to give you more flexibility with the things that you can do with EventWorks. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Johan. As a master of the Q&A, I think managed to respond to most of the questions. I think maybe two small validations or 2 questions I wasn't sure to be able to answer. One was from Nicole from FIFA about umlaut and other strange accents on letters. I think Yannick responded to that one. I guess you can use calculated fields as well to change that with the function substitute.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What we are what we are doing, that is a new calculated field function that we have in the pipeline and that will come in the coming month. That was a request from Enoch following the beach games debrief, which is basically removing all special characters or accent from a field in order to make it compatible with external system. And the case that we have here is integration with travel agencies booking system, in which case Carlson Wagonly. So we will have a new tag here that will basically remove all special characters in a string. A string is basically a series of characters. So it is something that we are working on, and it is something that will be available soon.
Okay, great. And then the other question was from Daniel from USOPC. Daniel was asking if we can also do if we can also do triggers on field change if those are calculated fields.
Not at the moment. It is something that we would love to do. We just need to find out the best way to do it, because what is happening is that calculated fields are by essence dynamic, meaning that the system calculates the value that it should display on demand, meaning that making a trigger or a calculated field based on something that changes, it's possible to do, but it's complicated because we need to create some kind of hierarchy where it would say, okay, first you need to evaluate that field. Then depending on that field is generated. So it is something that I would love to do. It is something that I know it is possible because I have seen it on a couple of databases, but it requires some logic to implement that is complicated. So right now you cannot base a trigger or a calculated field on a custom calculation. It is something that will most definitely come at some stage, but right now immediately you can't. You can use it with what we call system calculation, like for instance a field like the hotel name. It is a calculated field because it's a module field, and if I book myself a room at the Hilton, the field hotel name will have Hilton, and it is a calculated field, but it's a system calculated field which is slightly different. So we're working on it, basically, short answer.
Okay, thank you, Johan. Two last questions. One is from Emily from Enoch. With calculated fields, can you do conditions as well on module sessions, meaning having some automatic actions to add someone to a session depending on a specific arrival or departure field?
Here you're talking, I think, about automatically assigning sessions based on an arrival and departure field, which is something we have in the pipeline for you. I don't remember which item number it is, but it is something that is scheduled for this summer. So you will have it in time for your next GA.
Okay, and then maybe last question from Neo.
If it's Neo, I'm not answering. She's better than me with that. She can answer herself.
Okay, can a calculated field make reference to another calculated field? Yeah, now we're getting into
the same question than Daniel. It means that for the moment, a calculated field cannot make reference to a custom calculated field, meaning one of these here, but it can make reference to a system calculated field, which is a module field.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Johan. I think we covered all the questions so far, and in any case, we'll review all the questions following today's different webinars. So
we really recommend you play a little bit with calculated field. When you see the formula, it might seem not super easy to grasp in the beginning, but start simple start with some basic stuff. We're here to help you if you need it, but it's really one of the keys to optimize your process workflows and to save an incredible amount of time and to save an incredible number of possible errors, like for instance with the early check-in, late checkouts that are automatically updated, that are integrated in the change tracking. It is really a life changer in terms of an event manager who needs to do data management. So we really, really recommend you start playing with it. And again, if you see that you need help, that you need a couple of hours tutorial on how to get more comfortable with it, we're really happy to assist you, but it's really worth spending some time on. And it's one of the unique features of EventWorks compared to what all our competitors do. So it's really here to give you more power to do what you want.
Thank you, Johan. Thank you, Tim. I would like also to thank you, all of you who have joined the different sessions today. It was a pleasure to spend some time with you and to show you a bit more about certain module of EventWorks. We hope that you have learned a few things and you will be able to implement some aspect when you use EventWorks in the future. Considering the high attendance, we might consider to organize other webinar in the future. In any case, we still hope and we are sure that we'll be able to organize our annual workshop later in the year. So please stay tuned and we'll inform you hopefully very shortly about new dates. Thank you again, everyone. I wish you, on behalf of WIS-Team, I wish you a great end of the day, a good night for some of you, a good day for some other, and for sure we'll be in touch very soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Stay safe.